So I just completed my first ever Cowboy Action State Championship here in Florida at what has been called The Last Stand. This was a multi-day event with side matches and 10 main stages to compete in. 5 stages were on Friday and 5 were on Saturday. I've been to 6 Cowboy Action matches so far, so I didn't know how different a state match would be compared to a regular local match. The turnout was a lot more than I expected. There was probably around 200 shooters that competed, and all of us were grouped up in the early morning to hear the greetings from the organizers, the safety brief, a quick prayer, and a pledge of allegiance, and then we were off to our assigned starting stages. It was kind of a surreal moment, a uniquely American moment, seeing 200 strangers all dressed in outfits of the Old West, toting guns of a bygone era ready to wring some steel. You could easily tell the difference between the people who were there to just have fun and the ones who were quite literally gunning for the top of the leaderboard. There are a variety of calibers, rifles, pistols, and shotguns to use in this sport, but I had my suspicions that in this game, like every game, there is a meta that everyone who wants to be competitive tends to gravitate towards. Now, you're allowed to use whatever you want, as long as it fits inside one of the allowed categories, but the vast majority of shooters I saw were using a 73 rifle of some kind in 38, Ruger Vaqueros, and a side-by-side coach gun. The best shooters I've seen use a Model 97 shotgun, however. For as many guns that could work for cowboy action shooting, you really only tend to see the same types. However, what I did see that was different were the leather setups for holsters. There are rules for what kind of holsters you can have in different categories, but some of the better shooters had holsters like this. I'm still very new to the game and don't know the advantages and disadvantages of each type, but I could see that having your pistols up front just makes sense for speed. They are physically closer, and you don't even have to look to draw and reholster. The kind I use are drop holsters, which I still have to take my time to make sure that I'm reholstering properly. At a normal local match, the stages are usually pretty simple: 10 rifle, 10 pistol, and 4 to 6 shotgun shells on stationary targets. However, here there was some more variety. There was a stage with a moving target, there were stages where there were more movement between shooting positions, and the layout of targets was quite different than the usual. Also, the biggest thing that set this state championship apart was the set decoration and props. I think the organizers did a very good job of adding some flair to the stages without making it too complicated or busy. These props help tell a story for that specific stage. In cowboy action shooting, there is usually a scenario that the shooter is put into, and the ones here were fairly creative. In stage 1, called Hanging, the scenario is, we meet Maverick sitting on Ollie, with a noose around his neck. Angel says, I almost got hung myself once, didn't care much for it, and then he drops the bag of rattlesnakes near Ollie. In this stage, you have to pull a lever and drop a bag of fake snakes near a horse to activate the swinger target. Something reminiscent of this scene.
First time.
In stage 2, called Let's Play Poker, the scenario is, after Maverick meets Johnny, Harden, he demonstrates his fast draw prowess. Annabelle asks Johnny, was that fast? I thought that was fast, Johnny agrees. The procedure is to begin holding cards facing backwards in both hands. Then you flip the poker table over and begin the sweep patterns for that stage. In stage 3, you start by holding a derringer to recover stolen money. There is another stage where you start by shooting a mini bow and arrow, and one where you had to smack a dummy in the face with a frying pan. All in all, I thought it was a good time. I got to talk with some shooters who had been doing it for decades, and some who were just getting started like me. Some of the things that I took away from this is that I really need to focus on the sweep pattern. I got about 4 penalties for shooting the incorrect sweep pattern, and at 5 seconds apiece, that can really tank your times pretty quickly. Another thing is to count my shots more. There was one stage where I got confused on the sweep and forgot to shoot my last rifle shot. Luckily I kept the action open so there wasn't really any safety concerns there. All this can be worked on and improved with practice at home and at the range. So on the final scoreboard I believe I placed 166 out of 200, so I wasn't last, but there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.